go check my fantasy team.
What do I get?
I already know, Jack. Everything comes at a cost, bud.
That was like a peck.
The second kiss shared by father and son prompted tweets from viewers using words like very disturbing and uncomfortably long.
The league has filed for bankruptcy. The XFL is owned by WWE CEO and President Vince McMahon, and this was his second attempt at fielding a professional football league in the spring, but it has all gone wrong in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
The human obsession with watching and playing sports is not limited to modern times. In fact, people have been enjoying sports for a very long time. The ancient Romans, for instance, played a variety of sports and built giant amphitheaters to house their humongous sporting events.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode, and this one will be finishing up the NFL Iceberg. And this one has been a great series, great journey down the jungle of the NFL, but here today is the conclusion of the Iceberg. And if you want me to do a tier list of all the Iceberg topics, you can just let me know. I'm not sure if I want to do it or not. Only if you guys want to see me do it, I guess, then I'll do it. But really just I'm going to finish up this NFL Iceberg and then kind of head into more of the NBA topics, because I know I haven't gone into the NBA. I went over it last week to do the playoffs, but haven't really done any stories on the NBA. So I guess it is time for me to move on from the NFL from here and then kind of do some NBA content and then back to some NFL. So just let me know what you guys want me to talk about. But let's get right into today's episode. And of course, before I guess we get into today's episode, I will have to thank today's sponsor of the episode, Anchor. Now, Anchor is an app and website that allows you to edit your podcast from anywhere, your phone, computer. You can edit the podcast like in your car, in your home, even in a McDonald's. You can, really anywhere that if you have service, really, because you can use the app here to record with your podcast and make sure everything's going smoothly, or you can even use your computer to edit your podcast and distribute it to all podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and many other platforms that have a podcast audience, which is great. The great part about using Anchor is that you're able to distribute your podcast on one website, and then it goes to like all the other websites. So it's great in that sense that you can just post your podcast in one area that distributes your podcast, the same audio, everything, and then you don't have to keep track of your episode on every single platform, because Anchor has it all right there for you. And the best part about it is that it's free. You don't even have to pay Anchor to distribute your podcast. And matter of fact, you have the chance to be paid by Anchor through doing your podcast with them. So overall, Anchor is just a great platform. You can download the Anchor app by looking up Anchor in your app store, or going to the website at anchor.fm. That is the Anchor app, or anchor.fm on your browser. And make sure you tell them that Sports Stories Podcast sent you. And now back to your scheduled programming. Now, first on the Iceberg here for Tier 6 is that the Jets did 9/11. Now, this one pretty crazy, because why would the Jets be needing to do 9/11? It's a tragedy. And as for this one, I really don't know. Again, the deeper you go, the harder it is to find information, but I'm assuming just probably bringing a bigger market to New York, I guess you could say. But really, I don't really know why it would happen. But yeah, I guess just bringing a bigger market to New York is just the easier thing for them to do. So, having a tragedy like that definitely going to bring a lot of eyes to New York, and see how the teams are going to deal with it, especially because they are somewhat of a spokesperson for the United States and how they take care of what's happening in the country. So I mean, I could see how the Jets could be related to it, but for this one, I don't know. I think it's way above way above what I can really explain. So as for that one, I'm just gonna say bring a bigger market to New York, and in turn bring a bigger market to the Jets. Now, next on the list here is that Tom Brady retains youth by kissing his child. And now this one, I think it's been a running joke in the NBA, or the NFL, sorry, not the NBA, the NFL community, with Tom Brady kissing his kids, because, I mean, we've all seen it, kissing them on the lips. A little weird, No, but you don't really see any parents kissing their kids on the lips, maybe the cheek, forehead, those kind of make sense. But on the lips, like, I don't know. That was a pretty wide reaction from basically everybody on social media and media at all. I mean, seeing somebody kiss their kid on the lips, kind of interesting. I mean, it's kind of weird, but that's how the family dynamic works. I guess that's how it's gonna work. But this theory says that Tom Brady actually kisses his kids to retain his youth, and as we all know, Tom Brady is about to be I think he's currently 42. He's about to be 43. Yeah, he's about to be 43. And it's gonna be his 23rd year in the league, if I'm right. I don't remember, but I mean, obviously, everybody has speculated that he's gonna retire for a while. I mean, like, for the longest time, everybody's like, okay, this year it's gonna be his last year. Comes back again. That last year with the Patriots, where didn't end perfectly, end up with a pick six against Tennessee, and then it didn't work. But so everybody was like, okay, Tom Brady probably gonna retire. I mean, his contract looks up, and looks like he's gonna retire. He actually does not retire, does not go back to the Patriots, and goes to the Buccaneers, wins the Super Bowl, and then everybody's like, okay, maybe now he's gonna retire. He got a Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. He proved everybody wrong. Then he actually came back another year, and that one, they ended up losing in the playoffs to the Rams. So everybody's like, okay, looks like it's gonna be retirement time for Tom Brady. Then suddenly, not suddenly, I guess everybody kind of knew, he retired, and he only retired for 2 weeks. So then he came back. So I'm assuming, right, if this theory is true, he probably got all his kisses in, right, in that span of 2 weeks to retain his youth, right, and then he's gonna go back into the league, and then do the same type of thing that he's always done, because he's Tom Brady. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting, but to see if he does good, I think this theory could be proven correct. If he does good, if he runs in for a touchdown, yep, that theory is correct. He got all his kisses in within that 2 week period, and then went back to the NFL. And I mean, it would make sense why he stayed in the league for so long. Nobody stayed in the league for that long. I mean, maybe Andrew Whitworth, but he went into retirement for a little bit and came back. I think he went into retirement for like a year, and then it's not really like he had to do it. He has a lot of help there. But yeah, really nobody's really stayed in the league for as long as Tom Brady has. So Tom Brady is definitely is probably retaining his youth by kissing his kids. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden it just like comes out that Tom Brady retains his youth by kissing his kids. Like, do his kids get older? Like, do his kids lose their youth by their father kissing them? Because I don't really know. When I think about this situation, I think about the Meat Canyon video with Tom Brady kissing his kids, and that is very disturbing. I would not want anybody to look up Meat Canyon Tom Brady, because let's just say Meat Canyon does not have. Meat Canyon's animation is very good, but it's very disturbing. So I would not want anybody to see that. But overall, I mean, that's really what I think about when I look at the situation. And I mean, I'm gonna say that this one is true. I'm gonna put a true label on this one. As a certified Tom Brady hater, I would like to say that Tom Brady does retain his youth by kissing his children. And now the next one is that Goodell created COVID to kill the XFL. Now, if nobody knows Goodell by now, Roger Goodell, NFL GM, I believe, he's an NFL commissioner, and he's basically the head of the NFL, basically the face of the NFL in the higher up community. Like, we all know that if you need something changed, it's going to Roger Goodell in the end. So everybody really knows Roger Goodell as, the NFL guy. He's the head of the NFL. He's in the draft. He announces most of the picks for the first round. So everybody knows who Roger Goodell is. Now, the XFL, I believe, it is a football league, but I believe it was started in the early 2000s by WWE CEO Vince McMahon. And now Vince McMahon started up the league, lasted 1 year, but it just was really underfunded. And Vince McMahon really wanted to make this league to overtake the football realm in the United States and overthrow the NFL off its throne and take that number one spot for football. But ended up not working out that 1 year because of just how underfunded it was. I mean, there are just stories about how teams are, missing equipment, like they just didn't have equipment. So overall, it was just not a good, first experiment. But in 2019 or 2020, I believe, the XFL did start in 2020, and XFL did start another reboot. They're trying it again. And in 2020 it started, and it started a little bit after the AAF, which is another failed football league, but the XFL looked like it was gonna be a little bit good this time. It seemed like they had funding. Obviously the players were a little bit, you're not gonna see the same players in the NFL really, or the same type of caliber talent, but it was still pretty raw. A lot of people liked it. The rules were a little bit better than the NFL. And it was looking on the up and up, but COVID came. It hit the XFL probably the hardest due to just lack of funding for long-term success. So they ended up having to scrap the whole idea, file for bankruptcy due to COVID-19. And so now this theory says that Roger Goodell actually created COVID. He created COVID, this worldwide pandemic, right? Created it to make sure that the XFL did not overthrow the NFL. Now, as an avid Pat McAfee show watcher, they had a joke where that Roger Goodell defeated COVID because the stadiums are open again, full capacity most of the time for most states. So everybody's like, yeah, Roger Goodell defeated COVID. Now, how can you defeat COVID unless you're the maker of the COVID-19 virus? Okay, boom, right there. Roger Goodell created COVID-19, right, to get rid of the XFL. Might have got a little out of hand, but then he defeated COVID, right? I wouldn't say at the start of the next season, but the 2021 season, this past season, it's been 10 times greater for the NFL. I mean, fans couldn't go to see their home teams and their home stadiums, and then now they can. So I'm sure revenue basically doubled because, more people are wanting to see the NFL now because they couldn't see it the previous season. So, a lot of people, they're looking forward, to watching the NFL after COVID. So, it would make sense that Roger Goodell would defeat COVID just in time for an NFL season to be played, and basically ruin the XFL's chances at making that second revival. But it's funny enough that I'm talking about the XFL because the USFL debut is today, but the XFL is making another reboot. Now this time, I believe Vince McMahon is not involved with this one. It does seem like it has better funding. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I think everybody knows him, is one of the main commissioners now, and I think he's really getting the league some funding, and it seems like they're starting to be an official league. They're getting players. They're able to scout players at their pro days. Sorry for the draft. They're able, and they also signed a deal with the NFL, talking about rules. I think the XFL is testing out rules for the NFL to see what the reaction by the fan base is, and also if it makes for a better playing environment. So that one's going to be exciting to watch the XFL for, just to kind of see NFL rules develop there. And I mean, the XFL has repeated that they are not going to be an NFL developmental league, so I think they're just going over the rules for the NFL and not the players. But we have seen the XFL to NFL pipeline work before. The past revival of the XFL kind of led to multiple teams being able, or multiple players being able to get into the NFL, get into the league through what they've shown in the XFL, which has been really great. But it does seem like the revival of other sports leagues is happening. I mean, again, I talked about the USFL, which was originally made by Donald Trump, but now it's not really part of Donald Trump, but it is still the USFL. XFL is making a revival next year. That one's gonna be exciting to watch. And the FCF, Fan Control Football League. Now that one, many people have pointed out it's a joke, but it still has kind of led to some people getting their highlights out there. And that's the start of the season for the FCF is starting today as well, alongside the USFL. So that one, they're getting a little bit of contest there, but I think it's gonna be interesting overall to see what the football league race is. But I feel like in the end, if the XFL already has a partnership with the NFL, I feel like sooner or later the XFL might lose its ways with being an independent football league and possibly join the NFL. I could see it being really good, having a minor league football league, like football realm, I guess you could say. I mean, the MLB has it, NBA has it, and that's basically 2 out of the 3 big sports of the United States. And so if football has a developmental league, I think it'll be great. More people have a chance to make it to the league. You're gonna have players that are playing a little bit lower, but they're gonna be able to develop in a more established league, and then possibly work up to working in the NFL. So I wouldn't have a problem if XFL did join the NFL, because I would like to see more developmental league for the NFL, and see more people get a chance to play in the league. But it is going to be interesting to see what the XFL does in this next revival. But as for Roger Goodell creating COVID-19 to knock off XFL, I mean, it's a possibility. NFL is a really high brand, and especially if you lose that, because the NFL did lose a little bit to the USFL when the USFL first started. I mean, if you think about it, Herschel Walker actually started playing with the USFL and not the NFL in his in his career. I mean, Doug Flutie played in the USFL. I mean, the USFL was taking players from the league, and Roger Goodell probably didn't want history to repeat itself, and decided to pull the plug early on the XFL and kind of force them to quit due to COVID. So I mean, that could be a very big possibility. Now this next one, I think, is going to open a lot of eyes. And this one is that football is not real. it maybe this sport that we call football is all just a mental construct, right? It's kind of like how do you say it? Mass hysteria, right? Like, I mean, if nothing's happening but multiple people are convinced that it's happening, then, you know, the entire population of, say, that room will feel like this thing is happening, even though it's not. And mass hysteria is mainly pointed at with the Salem witch trials, you know, just with, like, curses that happened, and, you know, then they're like, oh, it's the women, you know, and then they, like, did the witch trials, and that, I guess you could say, it was mass hysteria due to just, like, how many people believed in something that really just wasn't happening. So, I mean, maybe we're all believing that the NFL is real, right? But then again, it would explain another reason why Tom Brady has played so long in the league, is because football is not real. It's not a part of our reality, right? We all think something is happening when in reality it's not. But somehow we've been fooled as an entire population to believe that the NFL is actually real, that football exists, and we all know that the NFL exists, but maybe it just doesn't. Maybe it's all, you know, like Neo. If we pull the plug, right? Then, like, or let's say, like, to think if football is real, if we were to, like, if it was a simulation, right? If this is a simulation theory for the world, right? If somehow we unplugged, right, from the simulation, and then still we thought we were watching NFL, unplugged from the simulation, would we all just be, like, huddled up in like a little area? Like, I wonder how that would happen, like, if football isn't real. Or maybe the theory is pulling that football isn't real because it's fake, which is also, but I've already touched on that, so I don't think, or I've already touched on that in the Iceberg, so I don't think that's what it's talking about. I think it's saying that just football does not exist. Or no, actually, no, it just says football doesn't exist. So yeah, football does not exist. We're all fabricating people, teams, stadiums. We're all thinking that it's real, when in actuality it's not. That's pretty crazy to think about, you know, because there's, like, so many YouTube channels talking about the football, and especially this channel talking about football, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't even exist. So, pretty interesting to think about. Does it exist? Are we all just thinking that it exists? I mean, then again, have we seen an NFL player buy their own groceries? That's a real question. You know how they're saying that you're in a simulation if you've never seen your neighbors bring in groceries from their car into their house? Have we ever seen a football player bring in groceries from their house, or even go to in a store? Have we seen an NFL star in a store? Okay, we gotta think about that. Have we seen them we've seen them getting off the buses into the stadiums. We've seen them at the Pro Bowl giving out autographs. We've seen them giving out autographs, like, in the public. But have we ever seen them get groceries? If they are humans, right, they would need groceries to eat. So, football does not exist because we've never seen an NFL player get groceries. Now, for the last and final topic on the iceberg, is that the NFL dates back to the Roman Empire, specifically modern gladiators, that the NFL is just modern gladiators. And for those of you that don't know, the Roman Empire, really big empire in Europe. I mean, just basically everywhere. That's why they're an empire. They would have, like, fights in a coliseum. People in armor with weapons. You know, they would do a little bit of fighting, but this fighting would go to the death. So, and it was actually a really big entertainment for the Roman Empire. And if you think about it, Colosseum, right? Have you heard about the Colosseum? That's because the Rams played in the Colosseum when they first got to LA. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Another coincidence is that they both wear armor. Now, the NFL wears pads. In the Roman Empire, they didn't really have pads. They had like plates and stuff. They had like the bronze plates, chest plate. They had the shin plates, the helmets, the spears, then the swords, the shields, and it was very physical. Obviously gonna end in injury because they were literally fighting to the death, and they participated and put themselves at risk for public entertainment. Now look at that. That all kind of seems like the NFL, right? People putting on pads, helmets, right? Leading themselves possible to injury for the public entertainment. Makes sense, right? And overall, I've heard it been called, gladiators, they're gladiators, blah blah. So it's a possibility that it is just modern gladiators for the NFL. Like, I wouldn't say that it's false. Like, this theory is false because technically it would be true. Like, if you look up the definition of gladiators, right, and you look up pictures of gladiators, or not pictures of gladiators, but like paintings of gladiators, or look up even a video teaching, about the Roman Empire and the gladiator battles. It's not very far off from the NFL. Obviously, the NFL, people in the NFL are not fighting to the death, but putting themselves at risk for public entertainment is the NFL. And you're gonna have people that are fit, and there were warriors in these fights, and NFL stars have the physique, I guess you could say, of the warriors that are fighting in the Colosseum and as gladiators. So overall, you could say that it is alike to gladiators and gladiatorship, but I wouldn't say it's far off to say that they are gladiators, just not in the historical term, but I guess you could say in a more common way that they would be gladiators. They're not really like they're not really historical definition of gladiators, but I guess in the modern day they are somewhat of gladiators, and it does kind of make sense that the NFL could be modern gladiatorship, I guess. But I don't really know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. That one was kind of interesting. And that was the last one. The last one on the list is a redacted thing that I can't decode. And on the Reddit page, literally nobody helped. It just says do not search, and so then everybody's like, yeah, just don't search this, blah blah blah, kind of memeing it. So I don't even know what it means. I can't even decode that. So we're gonna have to end it short here. Unfortunately, we're never gonna know what that last theory is on the iceberg, but I guess that's why it's an iceberg, huh? Some things need to stay hidden. And that'll be all for today's episode. We finished tier 6 of the iceberg, finished the entire iceberg. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and let me know what you guys, what's the most believable theory out of the entire iceberg. If you've been listening to each and every iceberg episode, thank you very much for that, first of all. But let me know what you guys think is the best overall theory on the iceberg. And make sure you share, like, and comment this video. Comment on this video, not comment this video, but comment on this video, like the video, and share the video to anybody you think would be interested. And thank you for listening and watching all the way through. This has been the Sports Source Podcast. And have a great rest of your day.